welcome to the Alice Stewart Show. 7:18, beautiful day here in Central Arkansas, and it was a busy day in Washington, D.C. yesterday as thousands of Tea Party activists went to Washington, D.C. and held a rally to audit the IRS. And one of those leading the fight, as she has been for quite some time, is Minnesota Congresswoman Michele Bachmann, who joins us this morning on the phone. Congresswoman, good morning.
Good morning, Alice. It's great to talk with you again. We had an incredible day out on the lawn. We had well over 10,000 people who had gathered on the lawn because they're fed up with a government that they can't trust anymore, that has no more credibility. So we had a very, very important rally on auditing the IRS and abolishing the IRS. And at the same time, on the other side of the Capitol, we had another rally with thousands of people saying no to granting amnesty to illegal aliens. So it was real people, authentic Americans who've had enough, and they came out to express their opinion. It was great.
And one thing that a lot of folks may not know about you is you're a former federal tax attorney, and you know what you're talking about. And you made that point very clear yesterday at the rally. Is you said that you were an IRS insurgent and you understand the enemy, and that's the best way to defeat them.
Well, the best way to defeat someone is to know them and to know them from the inside out. That's why when the initial story came out, Alice, I knew that it was a fraud because they were saying that low-level employees had plotted to come against the Tea Party and to deny them tax-exempt status. I knew that was impossible because as a tax lawyer within the IRS, we had very clear manuals, thick manuals that we had to follow with standard operating procedures. We had to check the box on everything that we did. Our supervisors checked our work. Their supervisor checked their work. On up the food chain, so to speak, we couldn't get away with anything. It was impossible to be rogue. That's why it was very clear that when this information came out, it had to be wrong. And of course, we found out the IRS had to admit that they did do this action. They had to change their story. So right. That's why people don't have any more trust for this agency. Absolutely.
And the action we're obviously referring to is the IRS targeting conservative groups and Tea Party groups. When they sought tax-exempt status, the IRS went after them and audited them and delayed, and many times the people gave up and did not seek their status because it was too much paperwork by the IRS, and the agency claims it was a few rogue frat boys in Ohio, when we now know that the directives came all the way from Washington, D.C. I also want to bring in, Congresswoman, someone who understands this more than anyone, the head of the Tea Party Patriots, Beth Martin, who was also at that rally yesterday and made some fantastic points. Beth, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me, and good morning, Congresswoman Bachmann.
Good morning, Beth. Great job yesterday, and I loved your cowboy boots.
Thank you.
It's all about the outfit. Well, Beth, you made some points talking about this is our government is too big and it's too powerful, and clearly that message connected with the people there yesterday.
It is too big and it's too powerful when the IRS the agents who work at the IRS, who are supposed to be our public servants, can literally turn that agency into a weapon and set that weapon's sights on us. It's a problem, and we have to rein it back in. And as Congresswoman Bachmann was saying, this goes way beyond just a few agents, low-level agents at the Cincinnati office. I know, and I have seen letters from groups that received letters from California, from Cincinnati, and from Washington, D.C. So we know it expanded more than just one office. And we still don't know who started it and how high up it goes within the administration.
And no one's answering questions. Everyone says, I don't know, and then Lois Lerner gets in there and says, I'm not guilty, but I don't know anything. I'm not going to say anymore. And Congresswoman, it's incumbent on members of Congress and officials there to get these answers. And how confident are you that we will get to the bottom of this?
Well, we will if we stick with it. They're not going to voluntarily give up this information. We will have to subpoena them and bring them in. Let me just add this about why this is so incredibly important. Unlike all of the other systems of justice in America, where Americans are innocent until they are proven guilty, the IRS is unique. The standard in the IRS is the American people are guilty until they're proven innocent. Now, that's not rhetoric on my part. That is the legal standard. People are guilty as determined by the IRS until they can prove themselves innocent. This is very important because of the tremendous expansion, breathtaking, unprecedented level of expansion of power in the IRS because of their enforcement abilities over the new Obamacare legislation. That's why this is important, because the most sensitive personal information that we have in our health care records will now be under the purview of the IRS. And that's why this is so important, because the IRS has proved themselves unworthy of being able to handle our information. They've shown themselves to be politically motivated, and to further empower and grow their power is something that I think is really frightening to many Americans. And that's why I think Jenny Beth and the Tea Party Patriots yesterday were so important, and we saw such an outpouring of support because people recognize this intuitively, even if the politicians can't.
Well, and Jenny Beth, to that point, to the Congresswoman's point, not only the IRS overseeing the implementation of Obamacare, the very woman who was in charge of the tax-exempt status is the person at the helm as it stands now. Hopefully that will change. But clearly, that's tremendous concerns for all Americans, it should be, but specifically groups like the Tea Party Patriots.
Well, I think it's very, very concerning. We know that the IRS was targeting people. We know it was based on political ideology, and we have seen that they are willing to abuse and trample on our constitutional rights, such as every word in the First Amendment. And if they're willing to do that now, and we know that that is something they're willing to do now, what may they do in the future if we disagree with them on our political ideology when it comes to our health care? And they control, they're going to wind up being the ones who are able to decide what kind of life and death treatment we're able to have, and if we can pay for it. And it's very, very concerning.
And Congresswoman, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Alice, one thing I wanted to mention is one thing that bureaucracies don't do is self-limit their power. They grab more power than what government even gives to them. And that's what's really frightening, because the bureaucracy is expanding its own power right now, and the IRS is part of that bureaucracy. So I want to underscore and agree with what Jenny Beth said, because it is government, our elected officials, that have to rein in these agencies. That's why my opinion is we abolish the IRS. I would like to see them gone. They've been in existence for 100 years. They've disqualified themselves from their position. I think we should abolish them, and I think we should debate a new tax system, whether it's a flat tax or a fair tax. We need to have all Americans participate in the tax system. Everyone needs to pay something, because everyone benefits from this magnificent country.
And I support the fair tax. I think a consumption tax at the point of sale is the way to go. It's fair, and it certainly cuts out the overhead and reduce, as we've said, the IRS. Jenny Beth, well, both of you, first with Jenny Beth, how likely do you see that being, that we could either do away with the IRS or make some fundamental changes? Jenny Beth?
I think that it's very likely, as long as we don't give up and as long as we stick to it. And it's so vitally important that we do this. The tax code and the revenue system that the government uses to bring in money, and there is a legitimate need for the government, whether we think the government is too big or not, we all would agree that the government has a role and does need to collect taxes. When they collect taxes, they should not be able to use the tax code as a way to dictate our behavior. And the tax code needs to be fixed so that we know what to expect in the future. And we don't know from year to year whether Congress and the IRS are going to be messing with the rates. And if it's fixed, right now there are over 73,000 pages of IRS regulations. If we could repeal the income tax and replace it with some sort of a fixed income or a fixed tax system, and we can get rid of all of that paperwork. And we can make sure that the tax system cannot be used as a weapon against people or simply to be used to dictate our behavior as citizens.
And Congresswoman, I know you're about to step into a meeting, but just your thoughts on how likely you see it being that we can either abolish or fundamentally change the IRS.
Well, it's a very heavy lift. It's very difficult because abolishing the tax code is not what the bureaucrats or the ruling class in Washington want to do. They want to keep their power. So this is going to be very difficult to do. Certainly the president doesn't want to abolish it. Harry Reid and the liberals don't want to abolish it. But I think if there ever was a movement to actually move toward abolishing, it is now. And I think we do need to do it. Because if we want to grow our economy and grow jobs and lift up the middle class in this country, the best thing that we can do is abolish the IRS and instead replace it with something like a national sales tax. That would actually put everyone on a level playing field, and we could grow. I think we would be the investment source of the world if we would abolish the tax code. Whether that will happen, again, I have to be realistic. It's unlikely, but things happen if people speak up, and I think that's what we need to do. We saw that yesterday on Capitol Hill. People came out in droves and they spoke up. We need to continue that with our representatives and not just think that we have to continue this failed system that we have today.
I agree. Thank you both so much. We're well on our way to doing just that. Congresswoman Michele Bachmann and Tea Party Patriot leader Jenny Beth Martin, thank you so much for your time, and both of you have a great day.
Hey, thanks, Alice. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be back with Young Guns right after this with Josh Blevins and Jack Avery.